Hello, this is my first video, in which I will be playing Minecraft and sharing interesting stories from Reddit. To be honest, I am not yet sure which stories are suitable for this channel, so I kindly request that you leave any comments, even negative ones. As for the video, I have prepared 3 different stories about love and betrayal, a broken career and revenge, as well as difficult family relationships. So, if you don't like one story, try another. All time codes are in the description. Sorry for the long introduction. Let's start with the first story. I met Olivia at a mutual friend's housewarming party. She was standing in the kitchen, sipping white wine and laughing at something the host said, and I remember being struck by her laugh, genuine, loud, like she wasn't afraid to take up space. That laugh turned my head before I even saw her face. When I did, I was gone. She had these green eyes that seemed like they could slice through glass, and a smirk like she knew exactly how beautiful she was. I wasn't usually smooth, but that night something worked in my favor. We talked about books, travel, and our favorite bands until the party thinned out. I offered to walk her to her car, and when we said goodnight, I hesitated for a second too long. She leaned in first. 2 weeks later we were official. Those first few months felt like something out of a movie. We made pancakes in my tiny apartment on Sunday mornings, dancing barefoot to Fleetwood Mac. I work in IT, long hours, kind of nerdy, not glamorous. She was an aspiring stylist and worked retail to pay the bills. We made it work. I was careful with money, but I loved buying her little things. A new pair of earrings. Her favorite coffee. She'd light up every time, and that made the 12-hour days at the office worth it. We had inside jokes. I called her Hurricane Liv because she left a mess wherever she went, in the best way. My kitchen would be a disaster after her cooking attempts, but she'd look at me with those wide eyes and say, "I made it with love." We made plans. Talked about getting a dog. She wanted to live somewhere near the beach. I was starting to believe I could build a life with her. Then something shifted. It started small. Olivia stopped returning my texts as quickly. When she used to spam me with memes and selfies during my lunch breaks, now I was lucky to get a one-word response. I told myself she was probably just tired. Retail can be brutal. "You okay?" I asked one night as we watched Netflix, her legs stretched across my lap. "You seem a little off lately." She didn't look away from the screen. "I'm fine. Just a lot on my mind." That was the first time I noticed her distance, but it wouldn't be the last. Soon, she started asking for money more often. At first, it was understandable stuff. Her car broke down. She needed to pay a phone bill. Then it turned into things like, "I saw this dress I have to have for my job. It's kind of expensive, but it'll help me get promoted." I wanted to support her. I kept justifying it. She started showing up with new bags and shoes I hadn't seen before. When I asked, she'd say they were gifts from friends or discounted from her job. I wanted to believe her. I had to believe her. Work was getting busier, too. I picked up extra shifts, even took freelance gigs to keep up. The more I gave, the more she seemed to drift away. We'd lie in bed back to back, no longer tangled up like we used to be. Then came the night I told her I thought we should take a break. A break. Olivia's voice cracked. Her face twisted like I had slapped her. "I don't know what's happening between us, Liv. You're distant. We are not talking. I feel like a paycheck, not a partner." She stared at me for a long time. Her eyes welled up. "I'm pregnant." I blinked. "What?" "I was going to tell you soon. I didn't want to yet because I wasn't sure how you'd take it. But yeah, I'm pregnant." Every thought in my head stopped. I looked at her stomach, flat under a sweatshirt. My heart thudded. I felt a strange mix of terror and awe. A kid. Our kid. I hugged her. I told her we'd make it work. I believed it. I wanted to believe it. She cried into my shoulder. That night I opened a new savings account. If we were going to have a baby, I needed to step up. I started clocking 60-hour weeks. I stopped gaming with my friends, stopped going out entirely. My life became work, sleep, Olivia. She stayed home more. Claimed she was too nauseous to work. Said the retail job had let her go. I asked about doctor appointments. She always had a reason why she hadn't gone yet. They couldn't get me until next week. I don't like hospitals. Can we just not talk about it tonight? I told myself morning sickness was real. Fear of doctors was common. She'd go eventually. But then came the Amazon packages. A new phone case, high-end skincare, AirPods. I asked, and she said they were gifts from her cousin. I didn't press. Until I found the receipt in the trash, my name on the billing address. Liv, I said, holding the receipt. You told me this was a gift. But I paid for it. Why lie? She rolled her eyes. You make it sound like I'm stealing. It was just easier to say it was from my cousin. I didn't want another lecture. I'm not trying to lecture. I'm trying to understand what's going on. What's going on is I'm pregnant and hormonal and you're treating me like a criminal. I backed off. Again. But things kept piling up. I noticed text messages pop up on her phone from a name I didn't recognize. Jay. Who's Jay? I asked casually one night. A coworker. Chill. Something about the smirk emoji made my stomach turn. I started sleeping poorly, dreaming of her walking away, of a baby that might not even exist. I needed answers. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to hire a PI. But here I was, in a stranger's office, sliding over a blurry photo of Olivia holding hands with some guy outside a boutique. That's him, I said. She said his name was Jay. Just a coworker. The PI nodded. We can follow her for a week. Discreetly. You'll have answers soon. That week felt like an eternity. I told Olivia I had a work conference. I stayed at my brother's place. She didn't question it. When the photos came in, I felt physically ill. She was with him. At restaurants, shopping, even checking into a hotel. Laughing. Kissing. He was older. Dressed in designer clothes. She wasn't pregnant. She was never pregnant. I couldn't breathe. I stared at the photos for what felt like hours. Olivia with Jay at a rooftop bar. Olivia sitting on his lap. Olivia holding shopping bags I recognized. Bags she told me were old or from her cousin. There was no baby bump. No ultrasound. Just a woman lying to my face for weeks, maybe months. I went back to our apartment. She was on the couch, wearing one of my sweatshirts, scrolling through Instagram like nothing was wrong. Like our lives weren't built on a rotting foundation. We need to talk, I said, and my voice was shaking. She looked up, blinking slowly. What's wrong? I threw the envelope on the coffee table. Photos spilled out. Her face paled. What the hell is this? Don't play dumb, Olivia. You told me you were pregnant. You took money from me. You let me kill myself at work while you... She jumped up. You SPY on me now. Is that what this is? You invade my privacy? You lied to me. You faked a pregnancy. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. For a moment, I thought she might cry. You don't understand, she said finally. It wasn't supposed to go this far. I was stunned. So you admit it. I needed help. I was drowning. Jay was he was helping me. Helping you cheat. Her eyes narrowed. You were never home. You buried yourself in work. What did you expect me to do? Not scam me. Not fake a child. I'd never raised my voice at her before, but I was boiling. She sat down slowly, silent. I left. The days after the confrontation were numb. I stayed with my brother, called out of work, barely ate. Everything reminded me of her. A toothbrush she left in my bag. A playlist she made. My entire apartment was a crime scene. She texted, called, left voicemails that swung from apologetic to accusatory. You weren't there for me. I panicked. I love you. We can fix this. I didn't respond. I changed the locks, blocked her number. Then I started the process of untangling our finances. I found she'd opened a store credit card in my name. She'd racked up nearly $4,000. I filed a police report. The officer's face didn't flinch when I explained. We get cases like this more often than you'd think, he said. Romance fraud. It happens. She was my girlfriend. He raised an eyebrow. People scam the ones they love. That hit me harder than anything else. A week later, I ran into MIA, one of Olivia's old friends, at a coffee shop. We'd always gotten along. She hugged me awkwardly. I heard, she said. I'm sorry. You knew, didn't you? MIA looked away. I didn't know she faked the pregnancy. But Jay? Yeah. I tried to warn her. She blocked me. Why didn't you say anything to me? She looked guilty. You were so happy. And she lied so easily. I didn't know what was real anymore. She sat down across from me. Olivia's been like this before. With her ex. He was older too. She used him for rent and a car. She always finds someone. I felt like the air had been punched out of me. So she's done this before. MIA nodded. She plays helpless. But she's calculating. She knows exactly what she's doing. I thought I was done crying over Olivia. But after hearing what MIA told me, something cracked wide open inside me. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, our apartment, with a bottle of whiskey and every light turned off. I played our old playlist on repeat, the one we used to dance to in the kitchen. Fleetwood Mac. Hosier. That one Florence and the Machine song she loved. I broke down in the middle of the living room, face buried in my hands, sobbing like a kid. I wasn't just mourning the relationship. I was mourning the version of her I thought was real. The Olivia who kissed my forehead when I got migraines, who once stayed up all night helping me prepare for a big presentation. Was any of it real? I thought about texting her, about yelling, begging, something, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. Not when I knew who she really was. Instead, I started writing everything down, dates, receipts, texts, the full timeline. I wanted it on paper. I needed to see how I got here. Some part of me still hoped there'd be a missing piece, a reason that made sense. There wasn't. 2 weeks after the fallout, I got an email from her. Subject line, please read. It was long. Rambling. She said she never meant to hurt me. That Jay didn't matter. That she thought she was pregnant, but lied because she didn't want to lose me when she found out she wasn't. You were the only person who made me feel safe, she wrote. I know I broke you. But I was broken too. I just didn't know how to say it. She said she was moving to another state. Starting over. She included her new number. Said if I ever wanted to talk, she'd always answer. I deleted the email, but not before rereading it 3 times. I wish I could say I bounced back quickly, that I hit the gym, cut my hair, and became the next great bachelor. But the truth is, I drifted for a while. I threw myself into work, avoided friends, ghosted dating apps. I didn't trust anyone. How could I? I'd been lied to in the most intimate way. But healing's weird. It happened slowly, and then all at once. One morning I realized I hadn't thought of her in 3 days. Then a week. I started going to therapy. Told the whole story out loud. My therapist didn't flinch. That was abuse, she said simply. It wasn't your fault. Hearing that unlocked something in me. I wasn't a fool. I was just someone who loved too hard and trusted the wrong person. Just when I thought the storm had passed, she showed up. It was a rainy Tuesday evening. I'd just gotten back from therapy and was heating up leftovers when there was a knock on my door. I opened it without thinking. There she was. Olivia. Soaked, trembling, mascara streaked down her cheeks. Like something out of a melodramatic movie. I didn't know where else to go, she whispered. My stomach dropped. I should have slammed the door. Instead, I stood there like a deer in headlights. Please, she said. Just 5 minutes. I let her in. She looked around like she was seeing it for the first time. You painted. Yeah, I said flatly. It looks nice. She sat on the couch, the same couch where we used to watch movies, where we used to lie entangled on Sunday mornings, and for a moment, it was like no time had passed. Then I remembered everything. Why are you here, Olivia? She took a breath. I messed up. I've been in therapy. I wanted to tell you how sorry I am. For everything. Too late, I said. My voice didn't shake this time. I still love you. I laughed bitterly. You don't know what love is. She reached out, but I stepped back. I just wanted to see you one last time, she said, her voice cracking. To know you're okay. I am. Now please leave. She did, but not before slipping something into the mailbox outside. It was a handwritten note. I know I'll never deserve forgiveness, but you deserve the truth. Jay used me too. He was married. He cut me off when his wife found out. I had no one. I lied to keep you, because you were the only real thing I ever had. You saved me. I ruined you. I hope one day you heal. Oh. I folded the letter and placed it in a drawer I rarely opened. I didn't reply. I didn't need to, because the truth is, I had started to heal. Not because of her apology, but because I finally stopped waiting for one. I reconnected with friends. Went on a few dates. Nothing serious, but it felt good to laugh again. To be around people who didn't make me feel like I had to earn love. And for the first time in a long time, I started thinking about the future. A new city. A job opportunity. A fresh start. Not to escape her, but to reclaim me. It's been a year now. Sometimes, I still think about Olivia. Not with anger. Not even sadness. Just reflection. She taught me how easily love can be faked. But she also taught me how real love should feel. And I know now, I won't settle for anything less. I never responded to her letter. I never saw her again. But in some way, I owe her. Because without the wreckage, I wouldn't have rebuilt something stronger. I'm in a new apartment now. Light, warm, full of plants and peace. I adopted a dog. I sleep better. I laugh more. I trust slower, but I do trust. And someday, I'll love again. This time, for real. The next story will be about how the main character ruined his former boss's wedding. It started like any other new job. Fresh clothes, polished shoes, that slightly nervous but excited buzz in my chest. I had landed a marketing coordinator position at a mid-sized tech company that specialized in SaaS tools for small businesses. Nothing glamorous, but it paid well and had room to grow. More importantly, after bouncing between temp gigs for the past 2 years, it felt like I finally had a foothold. My boss, Andrew, was one of those charismatic types. Early 40s, always in some slick suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent, with a Hollywood smile and a firm handshake. He was the kind of guy who made you feel like you mattered. At first. The first few months were honestly great. I threw myself into the work, often staying late to help prep for product launches or fine-tune ad campaigns. Andrew praised me in meetings. I even got a gift card after my first big solo campaign brought in some major leads. The team was tight-knit, full of inside jokes and after-work drinks. It felt like I belonged. But in hindsight, there were signs. Like how Andrew always seemed to get weirdly possessive if someone else complimented my work. Or how he'd throw little barbs masked as jokes. Don't get too confident, you're still the new kid. And once, I caught him taking credit for a client pitch I'd written word for word. I shrugged it off. I needed the job, and maybe that was just part of climbing the ladder. But one Thursday morning, I walked in and saw an email that changed everything. Subject: Meeting with HR, 3 p.m. today. I stared at that subject line like it was a death sentence. HR meetings were never casual. Not at our company. My stomach twisted as I clicked it open. Hi, name. Please come to room 412 at 3 p.m. today for a scheduled discussion. Regards, HR. No reason. No context. Just cold, clinical vagueness. All morning, I spiraled. Had I done something wrong? Missed a deadline? Made a mistake with the client database? I even checked my time logs. Everything looked fine. When I asked Andrew about it in our morning stand-up, he gave me this practiced frown. I wouldn't worry too much, he said, but his eyes didn't match the tone. Probably routine. Just go in and be honest. I forced a smile and nodded, but I already felt it in my bones. Something was off. At 3 p.m., I stepped into room 412 and was greeted by HR manager Diane and Andrew, already seated. That alone was unusual. HR meetings were supposed to be one-on-one, right? Diane motioned for me to sit, folding her hands in that weird, deeply concerned pose. There have been some reports, she began, of inconsistent data logging and potential misuse of company resources. My mouth fell open. What? I log everything. You can check the system. And what do you mean by misuse? Andrew cut in, voice solemn. We received an anonymous tip that you'd been using client accounts to test marketing tools without authorization. I blinked. I'd never. Why would I? That doesn't even make sense. But Diane already had a folder in front of her. Screenshots. Login timestamps. Somehow, it looked like I'd been accessing accounts I never even touched. That day, they put me on administrative leave. I walked out of the building in a daze. Everything felt unreal. My fingers were shaking as I tried to text my roommate, but I couldn't even form the words. I ended up sitting on a bench outside the office for almost an hour. By the time I got home, my anger had replaced the shock. I knew I didn't do it. I couldn't have. Those accounts weren't even in my campaign queue. Someone had gone out of their way to fabricate this. And the more I thought about it, the more it pointed to one person, Andrew. He had access. He had motive. Maybe I was climbing too fast. Maybe he saw me as a threat. I remembered how tightly he controlled credit in our team. He never liked anyone outshining him. I tried to log in to my work email that night. Locked out. My Slack account? Disabled. I was already being erased. The next day, I called Diane, trying to stay calm. I'm telling you, someone framed me. There has to be a way to trace who accessed those accounts. IP addresses, device IDs, something. She sighed. The matter is being investigated internally. Please wait until the process is complete. 3 days later, I was fired. No severance. No option to appeal. I sat in my dark room for hours after that email came through. Phone off, blinds closed. Everything I had built, gone. But it wasn't over. Not yet. Because a week later, I got a message from someone I hadn't spoken to in months. Her name was Alicia. She used to work in the same department, left a few months before everything went down. We weren't super close, but we got along well enough to follow each other on Instagram. Her message was short. Hey. I heard what happened. Just want to say, I don't think it was fair. If you ever want to talk, I know some things. I didn't hesitate. We met for coffee the next day. Alicia looked nervous, constantly glancing around like someone might overhear. Look, I don't know all the details, she said, stirring her coffee. But when I left, things were already getting weird. Andrew was paranoid. He'd started having meetings without the rest of the team, pulling certain people aside. And I saw him log into someone else's account once. I didn't think much of it. But after what happened to you, my heart pounded. You're saying he could have planted the data? She nodded. Wouldn't surprise me. And get this, 2 weeks after I quit, another guy from your team, Rob, suddenly got promoted out of nowhere. He was Andrew's drinking buddy. Everything clicked. Andrew had set me up, covered his tracks, and handed the reward to his crony. I leaned forward. Do you still talk to anyone there? She hesitated. One. Leah. She might know more. I got Leah's contact that night. But before I could reach out, I got a new notification on LinkedIn. Andrew had just posted engagement photos. There he was, smiling like a toothpaste ad, arms around a woman named Kayla. His caption, luckiest man alive. I can't wait to spend forever with you. I stared at the post for 10 straight minutes. My stomach churned. Not from jealousy, but from rage. How could someone who ruined my life parade around like some golden boy? While I was scraping rent money together, he was posting about cake tastings and ring fittings. Something in me shifted that night. It wasn't just about getting justice anymore. It was personal. I messaged Leah. She was cautious at first, but Alicia vouched for me. Once we got on the phone, the floodgates opened. Andrew started dating Kayla while he was still with another woman, she said. Office gossip, but pretty confirmed. And even after they got serious, he wasn't exactly faithful. He had this thing with one of the interns. HR covered it up. I was stunned. You're sure? Yeah. And I might still have screenshots. He used to message her on Slack. Dumbass thought deleting them would make them disappear for good. My fingers tingled. Would you be willing to share them? She was quiet for a beat. Then, under one condition. You don't say where they came from. Deal. That night, she emailed me a zip folder. Inside, proof Andrew had cheated. Photos, Flirty messages. One DM that was timestamped just 2 weeks before his proposal. Suddenly, I had leverage. And the wedding? It was in 3 weeks. The next morning, I woke up with more clarity than I'd had in weeks. The anger hadn't gone away, but it had focus now. It wasn't just about revenge. It was about exposing the truth, about getting my voice back. But I knew I had to be smart. This wasn't just gossip. If I mishandled this, he'd spin it as a bitter ex-employee trying to get even. I needed witnesses, proof, and a way to make the truth undeniable. I reached out to Alicia and Leah again. Do either of you still know anyone on Kayla's side? Friends, family, bridesmaids? Anyone who might listen? Alicia came through. I think her cousin worked in the design department before me. They were close. I'll dig around. 2 days later, she got me the cousin's Instagram. I sent a message. Hi, you don't know me, but I have something you'll want to see before Kayla marries Andrew. Please hear me out. Then I waited. To my surprise, she replied the next day. What is this about? If this is some weird prank. I responded instantly. It's not a prank. I have proof Andrew is cheating on Kayla. I know how this sounds, but I swear I'm telling the truth. Just give me 5 minutes. A minute later, call me. Now. My hand shook as I dialed. When she picked up, her voice was sharp. Start talking. So I did. Everything. From the shady work set up to the Slack messages, to the screenshots Leah gave me. I could tell she didn't fully trust me yet, but something changed when I said, there's a message dated 2 weeks before the engagement. He told another girl she was his escape from the stress. Silence. Then she said, email me the proof. Now. I did. 2 hours later, she called me back. Her voice had changed. You weren't lying. This is way worse than I thought. Kayla deserves to know. And if you're serious about exposing him, I might have a way. I gripped my phone tighter. Tell me. She exhaled. I'm a bridesmaid. Her name was Megan, and she wasn't just any bridesmaid. She was Kayla's best friend. She'd known her since college, and the way she spoke about her made it clear she wasn't going to let Andrew make a fool out of her best friend. I'll get you in, she said. You'll be a +1. The rehearsal dinner is in 2 weeks. If we're going to do this, that's our best shot before the wedding itself. My heart was pounding. And the actual wedding? I can't promise anything there. It's a tight list. But if we hit the rehearsal right, we may not need to crash the big day. She gave me the name of a friend who owed her a favor, someone who could fake a clean, polished event invitation. My cover would be that I was dating one of the more distant groomsmen who couldn't make it last minute. I hesitated, not because I had second thoughts, but because I realized how far this was going. I was about to walk into a lion's den. I'd be face to face with Andrew again. I'd have to see that smug grin, hear that slick voice. But this time, I wouldn't be at his mercy. This time, I had the power. I'm in, I said. Megan paused. Just be ready. Kayla, she's going to be devastated. But she deserves the truth. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. He destroyed my life. I'm not letting him ruin hers too. 2 days later, the fake invite arrived in my inbox. And with it, came a horrifying realization. Andrew's wedding was being held at the same venue where our company held its last holiday party. The moment I saw the venue name, Harrison Grove, I felt like my breath got punched out of me. The same glitzy hall where Andrew had given his end-of-year speech. The same place where he'd clinked champagne glasses with me and said, "You've got real potential here. I see big things." I saw ghosts everywhere. I tried to push the memories down, but my hands were clammy the day of the rehearsal dinner. I wore a simple black dress, neutral makeup, and a soft smile that I hoped would shield the storm inside me. Megan met me outside the venue. "You ready?" she asked, smoothing down her dress. "No," I said honestly. "But let's do it anyway." The room was elegantly decorated. White orchids, warm fairy lights, table cards in swirly gold font. I moved like a shadow behind Megan, nodding politely, fake laughing when needed. Then I saw him. Andrew. He was by the bar, laughing with someone, arm draped casually around Kayla. And then our eyes met. Just for a second. His smile faltered. He recognized me. But then, just as quickly, it was back. He turned his head and whispered something into Kayla's ear, who giggled, oblivious. Megan nudged me. He saw you. I know. Good. Let him stew. I made my way to the open bar, heart thudding. The next move had to be careful, perfectly timed. We needed Kayla alone. Then, as if on cue, the DJ announced a delay in the dinner. Bride, please check with the coordinator. Kayla stepped away from Andrew. Alone. Vulnerable. Megan turned to me, voice low. Now's your chance. I moved toward her slowly, my pulse pounding so loud I thought it might drown out my voice. Kayla was talking with the event coordinator, frowning slightly. I approached from the side so she wouldn't see me coming and spoke gently. Kayla. She turned, her smile polite but puzzled. Yes. My name is, look, this is going to sound insane, but I have something you need to see. It's about Andrew. Please just give me 2 minutes. She blinked. I saw her eyes narrow, and for a second, I thought she was going to call security or walk away. But something in my face must have registered. She glanced over her shoulder to make sure Andrew wasn't watching, then nodded. You have 1 minute. I handed her my phone. Open to the Slack screenshots. The flirty messages. The dates. I scrolled down to the worst one, the one from 2 weeks before their engagement. Kayla's hand flew to her mouth. Her eyes scanned the screen faster and faster, then she paused. Her hand began to tremble. Is this real? Yes. I got it from someone on the inside. He cheated on you. He framed me to cover his own ass at work, and everyone around him just let it happen. Her eyes glistened, but her jaw set. Why are you doing this? Because I wish someone had done it for me. She turned to look across the room. Andrew was still at the bar, talking to his best man, laughing like he had the world wrapped around his finger. Kayla looked back at me. Can you send me all of this? Everything? I nodded. I already did. Check your email. She inhaled deeply. Okay. I need to go back. Pretend nothing happened. But I'm not marrying that man. And then, just before she walked away, don't go far. I might need your help. The night ended like nothing had happened. Kayla smiled through toasts and clinked glasses, her hand gently resting on Andrew's arm. You'd never guess she'd just seen proof of his betrayal, that she was planning something. Megan and I watched from across the room. She's a better actress than I thought, Megan whispered. She's probably still processing, I replied. Tomorrow's going to hit hard. I left quietly after dessert, nerves jangling with anticipation. I didn't sleep much that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I imagined Kayla confronting him. Would she do it in private? In front of everyone? Would he deny everything? The next morning, I got a text. From Kayla. He lied to me. Said you faked it. So I asked to see his phone. He refused. Then shouted at me. Megan calmed things down. But I need to be smart. I want to destroy him. I want everyone to see who he really is. Tomorrow. At the wedding. You in. I stared at the screen, adrenaline pouring into my veins. I'm in. A follow-up message pinged. Then bring the evidence. I'll give you the cue. We are going to burn this lie to the ground. The morning of the wedding felt like the eye of a hurricane, eerily quiet. I dressed in a muted suit, packed a slim folder with printouts of the messages, and triple-checked that everything was saved on my phone and backed up to the cloud. Megan met me outside the venue, her face tight with tension. She's going through with it, she said. At least, until the moment she flips the script. We stepped into the grand hall. White roses everywhere. Chandeliers glowing like it was a royal affair. Everyone looked so happy, so sure. It made me sick. I kept my distance, near the back pews, heart racing. The ceremony began. Andrew stood at the altar in a tailored tux, beaming like he was about to win an award. Kayla walked in on her father's arm, stunning and unreadable. Her smile looked perfect, until you saw her eyes. There was fire behind them. The vows started. Generic, rehearsed. Then it was her turn. She took a deep breath, looked at Andrew, then turned to the crowd. Before I say my vows, she said, voice clear and steady, There's something you all deserve to know. Gasps. Andrew's smile froze. The man standing next to me cheated on me, framed a coworker, and lied to everyone in this room. And I have the proof. She looked to me. That was the cue. I stood up. If anyone would like to see the evidence, I said, holding up the folder, come find me after the ceremony. But Kayla isn't marrying this man. Not today. Not ever. And then, chaos. Andrew sputtered, face pale. This is insane. Kayla, what the hell are you doing? She stepped back, shaking her head. No more lies, Andrew. No more manipulation. I saw the messages. You betrayed me, and you ruined someone else's life to protect yourself. His voice rose. You believe them over me? You don't know what kind of crazy people they are. A murmur rippled through the guests. Some stood. Others whispered. A couple of people even started pulling out their phones. The officiant stood frozen, helpless. Megan moved beside Kayla and took her hand. You don't have to explain anything else, she said. Let's go. Andrew tried to follow them down the aisle. You're walking away. Just like that. You'll regret this, Kayla. She spun on her heel, eyes blazing. No, Andrew. The only thing I regret is not seeing you for who you were sooner. Security appeared at the back of the room, unsure of what to do. I stepped into the aisle too, folder still in hand. For anyone doubting her, here's the proof. Messages, timestamps, screenshots. He cheated. He framed me. And it's all right here. Someone yelled from the crowd, let's see it. I tossed copies of the printouts onto an empty table. Curious guests swarmed. Andrew turned to me, face red. You think this makes you a hero? No, I said. Just not a victim anymore. And then he lunged. It happened fast, too fast to fully process. 1 second Andrew was screaming at me, the next he was charging like a bull. I barely had time to flinch before someone stepped between us. Security tackled him. Gasps echoed through the hall as they pinned him to the floor. His hair was a mess, face bright red, shouting every slur and insult he could think of. The image of the perfectly polished executive was shattered. Kayla stood frozen at the edge of the aisle, watching it unfold. Then she turned away, grabbed the bottom of a dress, and walked out of the ceremony without a word. Megan followed. As the guards hauled Andrew out of the venue, I stood there, dazed. Some guests stared at me. Others avoided eye contact. A few even clapped. One older woman came up to me, clutching a copy of the printed messages. He really did all this. I nodded. She shook her head in disbelief. Good for you. Took guts. After that, I slipped outside, the cool air hitting my face like a slap. I leaned against a tree, adrenaline slowly bleeding away. My heart was still pounding, but something inside me was lighter. I didn't just survive him. I beat him. Megan came out minutes later, her eyes wide. You won't believe this. Kayla cancelled everything. She's going public, with everything. The cheating. The framing. Your story. My breath caught. She's really doing it. She nodded. She's done hiding. And she said to thank you. The days after the wedding were surreal. Kayla posted a long, powerful message on social media. It included screenshots, dates, and a full timeline. She tagged the company. She named names. The post went viral. People shared it like wildfire. By the end of the week, Andrew was trending, for all the wrong reasons. The company put out a half-hearted statement about internal investigations and zero tolerance for misconduct. A week later, they announced Andrew had resigned. Unnamed sources leaked that he was forced out. I started getting messages from former co-workers. Some apologetic. Some stunned. Some asking if I was okay. And weirdly, I was. With Kayla's public backing, I had a chance to tell my side. A journalist covering workplace abuse reached out. I gave an interview. It was terrifying, but cathartic. I didn't become famous. I didn't get rich. But I got closure. And something else too. A few months later, I got a call from a startup founder who'd read the article. Anyone who stands up for the truth like that, we want on our team, she said. I took the job. I didn't mention the past in my interview. I didn't need to. I walked into that office with my head held high. Do I regret it? No. I lost a job, but I found my spine. And when Andrew tried to bury me, he forgot I was a seed. And the last story will be about a truly strong person who faced many difficulties in his life. I don't remember the last words my dad said to me. I was 5, sitting cross-legged on the stained carpet of our living room, clutching my favorite stuffed bear like it could protect me from what I didn't yet understand. My mom was in the kitchen, trying her best to sound calm. I heard plates clatter, voices rising. Then the front door slammed. I waited. 5 minutes. 10. Then an hour. Then I fell asleep by the door, waiting for him to come back. He never did. The years after that are a blur of hammer-down clothes, off-brand cereal, and watching my mom cry into a towel when she thought I was asleep. She worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3, and I didn't see her much. But she never left. And she never let me feel unloved. Still, the absence of him was a wound I carried in silence. Birthdays passed. School plays. Soccer games. The seat was always empty. People would ask, "Where's your dad?" I learned to shrug. Not around. But I never stopped wondering why. We moved in with my grandparents when I was 9. My mom couldn't afford rent anymore, and I remember her apologizing like it was her fault. My grandma just hugged her and said, "Families take care of each other." I shared a room with my mom. We had one closet between us, but it felt safer than anywhere else. I started working young, mowing lawns, tutoring, anything to help. I watched my mom scrape together enough to buy me a decent backpack before school started and cry when I made honor roll. By the time I was 16, I had 3 part-time jobs and straight A's. Not because I was some kind of genius. I just refused to fail. I was terrified that if I let up for even a second, everything would fall apart. When friends complained about curfews or parents nagging them, I didn't say much. I couldn't relate. I wasn't being raised. I was surviving. And the anger was growing. Anger at a man I barely remembered, but who had left a crater in our lives. One that my mom tried to fill with strength, but that I filled with fire. College wasn't a dream. It was a mission. I applied to every scholarship I could find. Slept 4 hours a night. Got into a top program for business with a full ride. Even then, I worked 2 jobs on campus. One at the front desk of a dorm. Another helping run events at the student center. Anything to avoid ever needing a dime from anyone. The thought of asking for help made me feel sick, especially from a man whose last act as my father was walking away. But the irony is he was helping me. Every day. Not because he was there, but because he wasn't. I became obsessed with success, not just to survive, but to become so untouchably accomplished that he would have to see it, that he'd regret everything. It wasn't healthy. I know that now. But at 19, it was all I had. By 24, I had launched my first real business. I won't say what, to keep anonymity, but it took off. Fast. We went viral. Orders exploded. I had to hire a team, then a bigger office, then move again. I didn't sleep more than 4 hours a night, but the adrenaline kept me going. One day, a reporter from a major outlet called. They wanted to do a profile on young disruptors. My face ended up on a popular article, then a podcast, then an invite to speak at a tech summit. My mom framed the article. She cried, told me she always knew I'd do something big. She didn't say it, but I know she meant, asterisk even without him. That night, I got a Facebook message. From him. I didn't recognize the name at first. Just David R. But the profile picture made my stomach drop. Older. Grayer. But undeniably him. Hey kiddo. Saw the article. Really proud of you. Would love to catch up sometime. That was it. Like we were old friends. Like it hadn't been nearly 2 decades since he vanished. I stared at the screen for hours. I thought I'd be ready. Thought I'd feel strong. Vindicated. Instead, I felt sick. Like a part of me was 5 years old again, waiting by the door. I didn't reply. Not for days. But he kept messaging. And I started to wonder, what does he want? By the 4th message, I knew this wasn't curiosity. It was calculated. Would love to grab lunch, my treat. You turned out amazing. I'd love to be part of your life again. Let me know when you're free. Each one sent me spiraling, because for every word he wrote, a memory rose up like smoke. The night my mom cried when the car broke down and she couldn't afford repairs. The time I sat in the school hallway while every other kid got picked up by their dad after a field trip. The Christmas we used grocery bags as stockings and pretended it was a game. Where was he for that? I finally showed the messages to my mom. She read them silently, her eyes going blank in that way I remembered from my childhood, her armor. Then she looked at me and said quietly, "You don't owe him anything." That sentence hit harder than all of his messages combined. But I still didn't block him. I wanted to know what he'd say next. What angle he'd try. Some dark part of me wanted to see if he'd admit why he left. Instead, he sent a photo. Of me. As a child. Holding that damn stuffed bear. The photo broke something in me. Where had he even gotten it? My mom didn't post anything online. Everything from our early life was tucked away in old albums and storage. Had he saved that photo all these years? Or stolen it before he left? I asked my mom. She shook her head, confused and visibly shaken. I thought I burned most of those after he left. Her voice cracked, and I saw that same pain flicker behind her eyes. 2 decades later, and he could still shake her like this. Why now? Why not when I was broke and sleeping 3 hours a night to pass finals? Why not when I graduated and waited in the crowd with no one to cheer me on? Why not when I begged the universe, as a kid, for just one birthday card? Because now, I was successful. Now, I was in magazines. Now, I was worth something. And suddenly, he remembered he had a kid. I opened the next message. I know I made mistakes, but I've changed. Can we please talk? I typed, "Where were you when I needed a father?" But I didn't send it. Not yet. I started digging. Not because I wanted to reconnect, but because I needed answers. Closure. A reason. I found a cousin on his side of the family through a tagged photo. Reached out. Pretended to be curious. What she told me made my blood boil. He hadn't disappeared. He'd moved 2 towns over. Started a new family. Got remarried within a year. They had a daughter. He raised her. Dance recitals. School events. Vacations. Smiling family photos. She got the father I used to dream about. I couldn't believe it. For so long, I told myself he must have had a breakdown, or addiction, or been too young and scared. That maybe he couldn't help it. But no. He just chose them. He didn't leave fatherhood. He left me. Suddenly, the message didn't feel like a mistake. It felt like an insult. He didn't just forget me. He replaced me. I drove to our old house. The place where the carpet scratched my legs as I sat waiting for him to come back. It was smaller than I remembered. The tree in the front yard was gone. New paint. New door. A stranger's home now. But I stood there for a long time. Then I went to the diner down the road, the one where my mom used to work double shifts. The waitress there, different person now, still had the same tired eyes. I ordered coffee and tried to imagine being 5 again. A little kid with a bear, still believing dads came home eventually. I cried. In public. For the first time in years. Because the success, the articles, the applause, it hadn't erased that boy. I realized I'd spent years trying to become someone that little boy could be proud of. But deep down, I just wanted to be someone he would come back for. And now he had. But for all the wrong reasons. I finally replied. 1 line. Let's talk. He responded in seconds. Really? Wow. Thank you. Just name the place. I chose a park near the city, public enough to feel safe. I didn't want a scene. He arrived early. Waved when he saw me. Like we were meeting for coffee after a long week, not 20 years. He looked older. Thinner. But not sick. Just ordinary. Hey, kiddo. Don't call me that. He blinked. Right. Sorry. Force of habit. I sat down across from him. He started small talk. How proud he was, how amazing the article was, how he always knew I'd do big things. I cut him off. Why now? He hesitated. then gave a rehearsed sigh. Because I've changed. And I miss you. No. Why now? He looked at me. Really looked. And then said something that made my stomach turn. He looked down at his hands. Rubbed his palms together like he was cold, even though it was nearly 80 degrees out. I've been going through some things, he said slowly. Financial trouble. Medical stuff. Divorce. I said nothing. Just stared. I didn't want to reach out for help, he continued. That's not why I messaged you at first. I really just wanted to reconnect. Bullshit. You messaged me the day my article came out. I'd been thinking about it for a while, I swear, he said, voice trembling just enough to seem sincere. But that just felt like the right moment. Like a sign. I stared at him, trying to find a flicker of guilt, of awareness, of regret. Do you even remember the last thing you said to me? I asked. His eyes darted. It was all a blur back then. Things with your mom were complicated. I leaned forward. My voice was shaking now. You didn't just leave her. You left me. You moved 2 towns over. Raised another kid. And you want me to believe this was some moral epiphany and not desperation? He opened his mouth. I stood up. Don't lie to me again. And I walked away. He didn't follow. But later that night, the text started again. The first message came an hour after I left. I'm sorry. I didn't know how to say it. I didn't want to lose this chance. Then, you don't understand how hard it was. I wasn't ready to be a father. I thought I'd mess you up. And finally, please. I just need some help getting back on my feet. Not forever. Just a little support while I figure things out. There it was. The real reason. It wasn't about love, or closure, or even regret. It was about money. My success. What I could do for him. I stared at those texts for what felt like hours. Not because I was tempted, but because I realized how much of my life had been shaped by a man who didn't even have the decency to lie well. He didn't see me as a person. Just an opportunity. But still, something in me ached. Not for him. For the version of him I made up in my head when I was little. The dad who had a reason. Who would come back and say, I never stopped loving you. But that man never existed. And the one who did wasn't worth another second of my time. So I made a choice. I typed slowly. Every word deliberate. You don't get to ask me for anything. You weren't there when I needed food. Or a place to sleep. Or someone to clap when I got my diploma. You left. Not once. Every day after. You built a new life. A new family. You watched me struggle from a distance and never once checked in. Not when I was 10, 15, 20. But the second you saw my name in lights, then you remembered me. You don't know me. You don't deserve to. And if you ever contact me again, I'll consider it harassment. I sat with the message for a moment, then hit send. Blocked his number. Blocked his Facebook. Blocked his email. And then, I threw my phone on the bed and broke down. Not because I regretted it, but because it was done. The story I'd been carrying my whole life had an ending now. And endings hurt, even when they're necessary. The next few days were strange. Like my body was learning to breathe again after holding its breath for 2 decades. I didn't tell my mom everything, but I told her enough. She hugged me, tears in her eyes, and said, I'm proud of you. For who you are. And for letting him go. I didn't respond. Just held her tighter. I started sleeping better. Eating better. Laughing more, even. But I also started crying more. Not out of sadness. But release. Because for so long, I thought I was broken. I thought something about me made him leave. But now I know, it wasn't me. It was him. And there's freedom in that. In understanding that I didn't need to earn love I was never given. I built a life without him. And it's a damn good one. People always talk about forgiveness like it's a gift you give someone else. But I don't think that's true. I didn't forgive him to let him off the hook. I forgave him so he wouldn't live in my head anymore. I forgave him the way you forgive a storm for knocking over your house when you were a kid. You can't change what happened, but you can stop rebuilding in the same place. He doesn't get to be part of my success. He doesn't get a seat at this table. But I'm not carrying him anymore. I carried my mom, my younger self, my dreams, my fears. Now, I'm carrying peace. And if that little boy with the bear could see me now, I think he'd finally feel safe enough to put it down. I am incredibly grateful to everyone who has watched until now. I wish you a wonderful day and good luck. I hope you will visit my channel again.